It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnett Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnett Bain. Just got done talking to Daryl Anka. Wow. Okay, so here's the piece that I'm still chewing on. I'm always chewing after we're done with him. It's
you need to swallow before you take another bite. Don't chew with your mouth full.
Please. The whole premise of this show, which has worked us, folks, we say it all the time. I'm
brutal. Every 4 months, we grab a grenade, we pull the pin, we blow up where we've been.
Which we call Daryl Anka.
We call Daryl Anka.
You want to explode this thing? We know
that's
what to
right. Now you can't. Daryl comes on, and then we can't trail back to where we were.
No, that's a good point. But Bruce Lipton also blew this thing up. For those of you who liked what we just did, go check out the Bruce Lipton because he's off the hook too. Mm-hmm. But I want to go back to the fertile soil from a frequency perspective, where I don't have as much of a challenge personally popping off the reservation from a frequency game perspective.
Say that again.
Okay, I'm going to say it in simple terms.
Yeah.
When Daryl said, "Wouldn't it be cool?" The whole creative conversation, that the creativity, and that is a frequency. The very nature of that frequency, if you really know how to follow it, we're not talking about structured imagination. We're not talking about a kind of creativity born out of that self-organizing frequency that keeps us safe. I'm talking about this really heartfelt, open-minded exploration. You know, the language, wouldn't it be cool? That frequency, like, wouldn't it be cool? The ability to imagine, to pop off and keep playing consciously at our own edge.
Mm-hmm. The what ifs.
Yeah, but not the what ifs like the hypotheticals where we're trailing back and keeping everything
Not
in
the
place.
yeah buts.
Yeah buts. No, not that. The what ifs. Mm-hmm. The really popping off frequencies. So I just wanted to say that our premise.
There are frameworks, though.
Yeah.
I want to bring that up here to your point. There are frameworks that we put in place. They're like training wheels in the back of my two-wheeler, which one of these days I'm going to take off.
I'll be a big boy.
I'll be a big boy now. So there are training wheels. There are practices that allow us to develop this relationship with these more and more refined expressions of what if, so that the what if that you're talking about is not simply a what if inside what is known,
right,
which is very inventive, but then there is a creative innovation, an inventive innovation that is a gift from this relationship with, as Daryl was saying, the truer me, that I'm not in that I don't have the same kind of experience with, that is calling me back into the merging, into the oneness. As I develop that, there are gifts that come from that, and beyond that, there is even a creative, innovative, inventive state. There are all these sorts of layers, and they involve very practical foundations. For one, how many of us, again, I'll come back to me, how many times do I have to remind myself to set aside, to create time, and I mean that in the most literal sense of the word, literally, to create time. Because time does not exist unless I create it. To create time in order to create, either by journaling or by gardening or by pushing a relationship to greater depths of intimacy, or listening to music with a greater degree of participation. Yes. How often do I create the time to pursue with an intentionality, closeness, different kind of rapport with experience, with my life's experience? Even if it's as simple as I'm going to create the time to take a different route home from the grocery store.
And I'm going to throw the spotlight back at you. I don't usually do this, and I know sometimes it's uncomfortable. I'm doing it anyhow. Arenas wherein we can play at this higher frequency, creative endeavors, right? So when you made What Dreams May Come, that had not been done. At least the thread of thinking, where we're creating our own reality, and then the amazing, magical, for what you won an Academy Award, for what the film won an Academy Award. The whole way.
We just won again. I noticed the Academy Award that was just handed out. Pretty much everybody on that team worked on our movie.
Yes, visual effects.
But we'll go back to you.
No, that's right. But the point is that, and one of the things too that I want to share with people as a process. So your wife was sharing this about this new film, one of the new films that you're working on. I know there's several, but that you found it in the music. You had this excited moment. You went, oh my God, I found it. Here, Sandy, you have to listen to this. This music, this is it. So the frequency of the music triggered, or you triggered, and then the music came in. I don't care which came first, chicken, egg, who cares?
It lifts you.
Yes. But
outside, it lifts you off the familiar. Then comes the challenge, the resistance. Oh no, it's unfamiliar. I want to track back to what's safe. Not in a creative impulse.
That's it.
Then you have to override that. So these things all involve becoming aware of the emotional states, and then aware of the mental states and the thinking that is an outgrowth of the emotional states that we use to push back against playing a bigger game.
That's it. And one of the practices in this arena is the wouldn't it be cool? The what ifs. And now we're playing synchronicity game. Now we just marvel at all the synchronicities. Like, we start doing a little bit of that what if stuff. Next thing you know, things are popping.
What if this will work out? That's the first thing you say. What if I was courageous enough to follow this?
Yes.
What if I follow this even though I don't know where it's going to lead? What if I'm willing to be wrong in the pursuit of something new?
Yeah.
What if I'm willing to be wrong in the pursuit of something that I think is right?
Yeah.
All of these are different calibrations of how we have handled life that are innovative in the sense that they are brand new experience for us and allow us to calibrate moment to moment to entirely new frequencies, to entirely new, that 24, 25 frames a second we were talking about.
Yeah.
Well, it looks the same all the time because it's always inside the same bandwidth. But if we do these sorts of practices, we increase the bandwidth, and slightly, ever so slightly at first, when we look very closely, and part of this practice is to pay attention to where it looks a little bit different, where it looks like there is some feedback, however small.
Yep.
There's some feedback. All of a sudden, could be the slightest little detail. When you pay attention to it and you endow it with meaning, even that is a virtuous loop of energy that feeds back and says, I endow it with meaning, therefore my subconscious gets the idea, more of this, bring on more of this.
That's it. And then you've got a good doorman. Because, look, I know the nature of one of my primary frequencies, my coping frequencies, my adaptive frequencies. It is self-organizing. It is. It's self-organizing towards comfort. It's self-organizing towards the illusion of certainty. And I know enough that that's not a great idea. I mean, you said, I don't know, 5 minutes ago, we get Daryl in here to throw a grenade in the middle of our comfort because we know that vibratory quality of where we get to pop off the reservation, and we know it isn't.
Well, here's how subversive this is.
The self-organizing tape loop?
The subtext of the Daryl conversation we just had.
Okay.
Here's how subversive it is.
Okay.
Underneath what he is saying, and we'll have him back to verify this for those who are skeptics. So,
we love those
underneath what he is saying is the communication that the doings of things in the world in order to have impact. I'll do this. These are strategies. Some people push back on the word strategies. The doings. They are effective, and we have been playing inside that game. They are effective to a particular level of frequency. There is another level of impact in the world that supersedes that.
Right.
That is another octave up the scale. that has to do with being states.
That's what he said, state of being.
The being
Absolutely.
state trumps the doing state.
Big time. And the
Now,
strategies.
there are different ratios of being and doing, and these are the spirited will in action that meets the feminine soul energy of imagining, connecting, being, and waits to be found by the spirited energy. It waits to be found and fulfilled. They work together. But the being state, when we operate in alignment with that being soul state, there's a whole different order of manifestation that happens, and it doesn't require I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll take my action steps. Now, you don't get to bypass that. So we're not suggesting, well, maybe you do. I don't know.
Because in the next moment,
Yes.
there's a click.
Maybe you do.
Can
I don't know.
acknowledge something here, which may seem a little odd, but I'm just doing it? I love when you click into the authority. And there's a number of little pieces that get put in place where you go, right, I know this frequency, and you hop on it. It's interesting because part of our work is to we know the I want to language this, but I don't want to get so languagey. Look, that self-organizing small story frequency that binds me to the reservation and has these really rigid walls that fence in my essence, right? That stuff is so insipid that it can seep into even areas where I've had the most juice in my life. Even in the most creative moments, it can come in and hijack the entire creative process, and I'm trying to get it right, and I'm trying to fit in, and that frequency is running, and like it's showing up with all kinds of resistance and limitation, and I'm like, oh God, I get it. This just thing, my whole amazing inspired moment got hijacked by that frequency, that self-organizing frequency that I'm always in relationship with. I'm not trying to kill it, right? Because again, what Daryl said about, that belief, how do I have a sense of that belief? I mean, I have to have a sense of it. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to bypass it, Then we're into faith. Then we got lucky.
Then we're into denial. Yeah. And then it's a luck story, and it's disempowering.
Yes, exactly.
It happened to me. You're back in the second story.
Exactly. But I just wanted to mark in this moment that I love when you go boom and you click in and we're off. I mean, that's the joy of what we do. A lot of times I listen back to our shows. I'm sure Daryl listens to him as Daryl, obviously him as Bashar. It's always like, wow, how did I get that? It's a download. It's a tap into a frequency, and it comes out and you go, wow. But the marveling at that, how many times do I marvel and go, how do we do that? Because there's no way I can, in that small story, figure out what that looks like. Mm-hmm. The only I can say is I know enough about practices, arenas, where I can create them and then just delight in the synchronicity and the crazy making that comes out. And you go, wow, who knew?
Well, they say where two or more.
Yeah. And
inside of the illusion, that is both true and not true at the same time, that we are separate. We are, in physical life, it's a world of duality. So we are true, both separate and connected simultaneously. So inside of that, the truism that by myself I can do nothing is absolutely true. And outside of that, we still don't have a direct experience to the more expanded parts of ourselves, and so they appear as other, and who knows, maybe they are other, I don't know. But the takeaway for me inside the by myself I can do nothing is that that means that every story is a love story.
Yeah.
And that feels like true north.
That as a frequency is a great recalibration. Let me come back to this as a recalibration. Let me get the doorman in here and go, okay, we're swinging right, we're swinging left. Okay, let's recalibrate here. And everything's a love story. And what's showing up as a small story needs to be loved. And the moment it's loved, it transmutes and becomes a big offer, a big something I'm putting out in the world that
transmutes into, well, how can I overcome that?
Yeah.
And then eventually eventually that might be as far as it goes, and for some it might be, is there more beyond that? And then there can be the legacy story of a destiny that's not out there, that happens to me, but it's self-chosen, that emerges out of an understanding, or the beginning, the glimmer of an understanding that I am separate and yet connected. And so what I do for self at some point begins to show up across the entire system. It shows up everywhere, and then my personal process transmutes into a global process.
That's it.
And then is the big game of service.
That's it. All right, listen, we have served our time. And
This was fun.
always.
Should we do it again next week?
We'll do it again next week.
We'll be here. We hope that you'll be here.
That's right. We invite you,
We
of course,
expect you will.
to join us on all the various places where we show up, Facebook and YouTube and anywhere else where you seem to find us, and keep coming back to Cutting Edge Consciousness.